من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء خاتم النبيين نبينا وسيدنا بالقاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, we are fortunate to gather here once again for another night in this blessed month of Muharam, where we mourn the events of Ashura. And with each passing night, we feel the weight of this event grow in our hearts as we think about Imam Hussein and his family and the followers of Imam Hussein on the desert sands of Karbala. Today I've been asked to give a few thoughts in English, and I ask you to all have patience with me, as I'm sure many of you out in the audience have much more knowledge than I do. But inshallah I will do my best to share a few simple thoughts about my personal reflection on the story of Ashura and Karbala. You know, at the beginning of this month, Aga Shahangian did a wonderful job in English on the first two nights, talking about a very thought-provoking systematic analysis, where he spoke about the significance of Ashura and his understanding of the purpose and the wisdom of this event. And he left us with the conclusion that the true wisdom of Ashura is in the tragedy of Imam Hussein as a connection, a creation of an ummah, wherein the union between the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt remains. In his lectures, he reminded us of the event of Ghadir, where upon the appointment of Imam Ali, as a successor of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the message of Islam was deemed perfect and complete. And it was the event of Karbala that preserved this union of the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt, and in doing so, preserved the perfect revelation of Allah. So in reflecting on this message, it is clear that the true importance of this event of Ashura and of us gathering here today is for us to mobilize our emotional connection to Imam Hussein, mobilize that emotional connection and mobilize it to action. So we need to step up and become that ummah that Aga Shahangian talked about. And we need to step up to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, when I was listening to that first couple lectures, I personally couldn't help but feel tremendous burden rest on my shoulders. We need to step up and become an ummah, brothers and sisters. This can feel very overwhelming. You know, it's easy for us to take some time out of our schedules for 10 nights a year and to mourn the tragedy of Imam Hussein. But to take actual responsibility and to become this ummah requires much more time, much more commitment, and much more sacrifice. Are we ready to do that? I ask myself. But alhamdulillah, we should not view this as a burden. We should view this as a blessing. We are privileged people to have gotten to know our beautiful Imam. Through this annual Majalis program, we get to know our Imam very well, alhamdulillah. We should feel honored to have the opportunity to serve and to carry on his message. We are the new flag bearers of his army. You know, the Quran even appoints us as shuhada if we are able to fulfill this responsibility. In Surah Baqarah, ayat 143, the Quran says, "Thus we have made you a mediating community, that you may be shuhada over the nations, and the apostle may be a shaheed over you." So just like Imam Hussein and his family served as shuhada of Karbala by becoming martyrs, we too have that opportunity to become shuhada by serving as witnesses and models for the community. Here in the Quran, when they say shuhada, they're talking about us becoming models for all of humanity. Just like the Prophet and the Imams were models for humanity, for us, we have the opportunity to become models for all of humanity. So we can be shaheed, just like Imam Hussein. But what does it mean to be shaheed, and how do we get there? That's what I ask myself. Dr. Ali Shariati, in his essay titled Jihad and Shahadat, has a beautiful metaphor that I'd like to read to you. He says, a shaheed is the heart of history. A shaheed is the heart of history. The heart gives blood and life to the otherwise dead blood vessels of the body. And like the heart, a shaheed sends his own blood into the half-dead body of the dying society, whose children have lost faith in themselves, which is slowly approaching death, which has accepted submission, which has forgotten its responsibility, which is alienated from humanity, and in which there is no life, movement, and creativity. The greatest miracle of Shahadat is giving to a generation a renewed faith in itself. The greatest miracle of Shahadat is giving to a generation a renewed faith in itself. This is really profound. So, as I was reading this and thinking much more about Shuhada and becoming a Shaheed, the question that arose for me was, how do I get there? What do I have to do to fulfill that role of Shuhada? To first look at this question in the context of Muharam, I think it's important for us to realize that mourning the death of Imam Hussein is just not enough. If this is all that we do this month, then I think that we have failed to become the Shia, and we have failed to become the Ummah, and we have failed to become Shaheed. This is just not enough for us. You know, Dr. Shayati continues in this essay, and he says, we, instead of being Shia of Ali, Shia of Hussein, and Shia of Zainab, that is to say, being the followers of the Shuhada, our men and women have become mere mourners for the Shuhada. We have remained in eternal mourning. So today, we have a choice, brothers and sisters. Do we want to be mourners, or do we want to be Shaheed? And if we want to be the latter, if we want to be Shaheed, there's much more we have to do. So let's talk about that. So but before I get there, I don't want to leave you today thinking that I am saying that we should not mourn. Mourning is definitely important. As Aga Shahangyan told us at the beginning of this month, it's that emotional connection we have to our Imam that is the beauty of this month of Muharram and the message of Karbala. Because it is with that emotional message that we're able to keep coming back here. You know, if you look at any Shia masjid around this country, I'm sure that there's more people who attend the programs in Muharram than any other time of the year. I can tell you that the few places in this country that I have been fortunate to live, I've seen that. In Seattle, in Minnesota, in San Francisco, and now here in San Diego. On these 10 nights of Muharram, more than on Ramadan, more than in Eid, the Shia come to support and to talk and to mourn Imam Hussein. And that certainly is important. But if we leave these 10 nights by simply mourning, and we have not done much more than that, if we have not reformed our personality, if we have not learned from this message, then we lost out. We lost out on an opportunity to do so much more. So, to become the true servants of Allah, we need to live the inspiration and guidance of Imam Hussein. We need to live that inspiration. And this leaves us responsible for carrying forward the message of Karbala. You know, the bloodshed has been done. Imam Hussein has lost his life. The bloodshed has been done, but this revolution was kept alive with the message of Karbala. And that message was carried forth valiantly by Zainab alayhi salam in the months and years after Ashura. And that message is what we have the opportunity to continue to carry forward today and for the rest of our lives. So what should we do to carry this message forward? Well, we have to look no further than Imam Hussein and his family on the desert sands of Karbala. They are our examples, and we can learn from them. So alhamdulillah, we have many hadith that teach us much about this. And Imam Hussein himself, in his journey to Karbala, he was very clear about what he was doing. In a letter he wrote to Muhammad bin Hanafiya, Imam Hussein has said, "The purpose of my stand is the reformation of my grandfather's nation. I intend to enjoin goodness and to forbid evil." So here Imam Hussein outlines the mission of Karbala very, very simply. It was to reform the religion of Islam, to enjoin good and to forbid evil. And this reformation of the religion, this reformation of Islam, his grandfather's religion, starts with Salat. If we look at the importance that Imam and his companions gave to Salat on the battlefield of Karbala, this should give us pause and inspire us to do the same in our lives. In the face of battle, the Imam prioritized Salat because he knew that his mission, his cause, and his revolution would be nothing without this institution. This was the key institution to the religion. This is the primary pillar of Islam, and this is of utmost importance. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa sallam The Prophet has said, the most beloved of deeds in the eyes of Allah are offering prayers at the stipulated times, then goodness and kindness toward parents, and then jihad in the way of Allah. Notice here, salat comes before jihad amongst the beloved deeds. And we have many other hadith from our imams as well. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam says, the prayer is the pillar of religion, and its parable is that of the prop of a tent. When the prop remains upright, the pegs and ropes remain straight and upright. But when the prop bends or breaks, neither the peg nor ropes remain straight. So we should ask ourselves, and I ask myself, is salat this pillar in my life, in our lives? Is it the prop of my Islam? Does it hold up my faith? And I'm not sure if I'm giving the same importance to salat in my personal life when I was thinking about this that the Imam did. And so I thought about this. You know, I personally have been guilty of knowing the time that a salat becomes qada much better than knowing the time when the salat comes in. You know, and this is not the importance that the Imam gave to salat on the sands of Karbala. In the face of war, in the face of the battles, when it came time for Dhuhr salat, the Imam dropped everything and was ready to pray. He didn't wait for the war to end or for it to continue, but he was ready to drop everything, but salat was number one. And as such, if we want to be the true followers of the Imam, we must be ready to give salat the same importance that he did. You know, in another hadith, the Prophet has said, the first thing that Allah made obligatory upon my ummah was the 5 prayers. And the first thing that from their acts of worship that shall be taken up will be the 5 prayers. And the first thing that they will be questioned about will be the 5 prayers. Again, the importance of the prayer in salat. So if we are to be this ummah, it starts with salat. Like I've said, it's the foundational pillar of our religion. And as such, we have to internalize the message and the example that Imam Hussein put forth in front of us and implement this into our own lives. If Imam Hussein was able to stop on the battlefield to offer salat, why should we not be able to stop at work or at school and offer salat? We should internalize this, take this to heart, and try to reform ourselves. So then after this first idea of reforming the religion, the Imam goes on in that letter to, and he says, the rest of his mission is to enjoin good and to forbid evil. Amr bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar. And the Imam has given a sermon about enjoining good and forbidding evil that is published in the book Tuhaf al-Uqul. And in this sermon he starts with the Quranic ayat in Surah Ma'idah, verses 78 and 79. These verses go, the unbelievers among the Israelites, because of their disobedience and transgression, were condemned by David and Jesus, son of Mary. For their disobedience, they were transgressors. They did not prevent each other from committing sins, nor would they themselves stay away from them. Evil was what they had done. And so the Imam goes on to explain this in this sermon. He says, Allah has begun with enjoining good and forbidding evil because He has known that if these 2 matters are carried out thoroughly, then all the other duties, obligatory duties, including the easy and the difficult, will be carried out thoroughly. This is because enjoining good and forbidding evil is advocacy for Islam. Enjoining good and forbidding evil is advocacy for Islam. And so if we listen to the Imam here, he explains that not only is enjoining good and forbidding evil the foundation of our religion, and not only will it make sure the rest of the matters of our society are in order, but as being a form of advocacy, it's a form of da'wah. It's a form of a way for us to carry on that message of Islam. And that's why it was the message by Karbala. And so when I think of enjoining good and becoming an advocate for Islam, I think it starts again with self-reflection and reformation. From here, enjoining good comes with ease once we have worked on ourselves and our own character. And it starts there and not with the preaching. The preaching comes afterwards. So if we look at the events of Karbala, I think that's what we see Imam was saying. Because of his perfect character, and time and time again, on the sands of Karbala, he led with example before rhetoric. And we see that when they first arrived in Karbala. When they first meet Hur's army, Imam Hussein is concerned about Hur and his army and offers them water and assures their comfort. This compassion, this akhlaq, is a very powerful message, and it's something we should strive to emulate. In these stories, there are lessons for us to learn. We should ask ourselves, would we be so compassionate with our enemies? Would we be someone who would be willing to do so much for someone that we do not get along with? You know, and it's this compassion, and it's this leadership through example that led Hur to be moved by the message of Imam Hussein and to come over to his side. And we see this time and time again, even with the speeches that Imam Hussein gives. If we read those speeches, and I didn't quote any of them here for you, but in all of his rhetoric on the sands of Karbala, we see that the Imam has this voice of concern and urgency, not for his own life, but for those who are fighting him. Because he, until the last second, he is trying to encourage them to recognize truth, encourage them to see the truth of Islam, and encourage them to save themselves. Would we be that compassionate again? It's a really, really powerful message. And this is advocacy. This is the Islamic advocacy that the Imam talks about. This is dawah. Leadership through example and then rhetoric. Oftentimes I think we are guilty at times of thinking Amr bil Ma'ruf means to correct people by telling others what's wrong with them. But the Imam warns us against this in another sermon from that same book. He says, beware of being one of those who is concerned for people's sins and feels safety from the punishment of their own sins. Beware of being one of those who is concerned for other people's sins and feels safety from the punishment of their own sins. We should not forget about our own sins. We should be working to reform our own character. And that's what we see in the Imam and his companions. Their leadership was through their character and then through rhetoric. And that's what we see in our Prophet, who spent 40 years developing his character before introducing the rhetoric. That's what we see in all of our leaders. And that's the message that we should continue to emulate. I think the other way around can be quite dangerous. It's dangerous because our advice will not be heard by the other. But more importantly, it's dangerous because we tend to hide behind the pretext of Amr bil Ma'ruf. Hide behind that pretext and avoid our own character reformation. And this can be very dangerous for ourselves. So these are just a few thoughts of the message of Karbala, just a few reflections that I was hoping that you would benefit from. In closing, just wanted to leave you with a few thoughts. We shouldn't be discouraged or overwhelmed by the opportunity to serve as the Shahada of Islam, or as the Shia of Imam Hussein, or the Ummah of Imam Hussein. We should be excited, we should be eager, we should be ready to step up and take charge. And if we apply these small lessons from Karbala, if we reflect upon ourselves, we work on reforming our own religion, and we look to address Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar, I think we can get there. But we should each one of us, we should try to make a goal this year that in these 10 nights, we should identify somewhere where we can become better and work to strive to reform our character, reform something about ourselves. Because without personal reformation and simply mourning, then these 10 days is going to be a waste. There's much more that we can get out of this, and we should try to strive to get that out of it. You know, on the afternoon of Ashura, Imam Hussein himself, all alone on the sands of Karbala, he called out and he said, Hal min nasirin yansurna. Is there any helper to help me? And who was this call to? You know, everyone was gone. Abu Fadl was gone. Ali Akbar was gone. Ali Asghar was gone. Qasim was gone. All of his companions were gone. This message, brothers and sisters, was to us. He was asking us to help him. And on that afternoon, just before his demise, he called out to us and asked us to serve as his ummah, to serve as his Shia. So we should be grateful for this opportunity. We should strive to attain this level of service. And we should continue to reform our character. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allahumma salli ala